30th November 2022 Select Board Sewer Commissioners meeting.
Oh, never mind, go ahead. Sorry.
So this meeting will be held in hybrid settings. The Zoom ID is 878-7672-3839 and the password is 01583. Roll call, all members present. I'm hoping, Mark Frieden will be joining soon. Now please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next is public comments. This 15 minutes period is an opportunity for the public to address your concerns and questions regarding town operations and program to the board, which is not in the agenda. So you are here for the...
I'm the assessor. I'm here for the
assessor, okay. Thank you. So is there anyone in the public's, any comments? Hearing none. Next item on the agenda, approval of minutes, September 7, 2022.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Review and vote to approve warrants for the period covering November 17, 2022 to November 30th, 2022. Town payable warrants FY 2023-21 and FY 2023-22. Sewer warrants FY 2023-12 and FY 2023-13. Payroll warrants FY 2023-11 and MLP FY 2023 number 10.
Make a motion to approve all the warrants as read.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. We do need to wait for another 3 minutes.
New business?
Can we go to the new business? Cannabis order complaints?
Mr. Chairman, that matter was requested by the member who is not yet present this evening.
Okay.
And then the special traffic constables, there is going to be a sergeant here to discuss that, but we could go to the surplus item.
Okay. Old business. Consider accepting bid received for the surplus items. 2006 Chevy Silverado 2500. Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Do you need the high bid?
Yeah, you're gonna give us, yeah?
Yep,
Yep.
so in your packet, you have the municipal bid. The high bid was $4,250.
So do we need a motion?
A motion to accept that.
Is there a motion to accept the bid?
I'll make a motion to accept the bid.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Is there any further discussion?
Do we know what the Blue Book value on that vehicle is?
The DPW director stated that we would be very lucky to get $1,000 for this, and everybody was surprised that these bids came in this high. I don't have the Blue Book value though.
Yeah, I would just say I'm currently shopping for a used car for a kid, and those prices are,
This,
It's a 2006, it can't be
this vehicle,
that much.
That's fine.
you can't open it without, there's a string holding the door shut.
that's awesome. Someone's gonna get really lucky. Good, okay.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
It's fine, guys.
Okay. We have a public hearings, 605 public hearings, classification hearing in conformity with the MGL Chapter 40, Section 46 to establish the local property tax rates or rate for fiscal year 2023. Someone wants to read the...
Yeah, notice is hereby given that the West Boylston Select Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, November 30th, 2022 at 6:05 in the Select Board's meeting room of the municipal offices located at 140 Worcester Street, West Boylston, Mass., in conformity with the provisions of MGL Chapter 40, Section 56, for the purpose of holding a tax classification hearing so as to establish the local property tax rate or rates to be assessed to each of the following classes of property for fiscal year 2023, the period from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. Residential property, open space property, commercial property, and industrial property. All interested persons, groups, and agencies are invited to attend and participate in person or at the Zoom meeting. Signed, Barar Rajesh Kumar, Chairman, Select Board, Town of West Boylston, November 18th, 2022, and November 25th, 2022.
Thank you. You have the presentation? Thank you.
Good evening, Select Board. My name is Amy Levinowski. I am the assessor of Central West Boylston. I'm here to present you with the tax classification for fiscal year 23. Starting with the terminology page, the tax year levy is $20,792,373.40. This is the amount of property tax to be raised. The levy amount is determined by the budget. This is an increase of $38.47 over last year's the fiscal year levy of $20,073,334.93. The levy ceiling is 2.5% of the town's full valuation based on West Boylston's full growth valuation of $1,334,555,417. The town cannot levy taxes in excess of $33,363,885. The new growth revenue, the new growth is derived from newly taxable properties like new construction, addition, renovation, subdivisions, and personal property. The assessors has tabulated the new growth revenues as $255,015.67. The levy limit, which is calculating 2.5% of last year's previous levy limit with the new growth. This year's levy limit for fiscal year 23 is $19,991,869. The maximum allowable levy, which is calculated by adding the debt exclusion, capital expenditure exclusions, or overrides to the levy limit. The FY23 fiscal year, there was no overrides, Proposition 2.5, but the excluded debt in the amount of $836,903. The maximum allowable levy limit is $20,828,772. Excess levy capacity, which is the difference between the levy and the maximum allowable levy, is $36,399. In the following box, you will see that those calculations are also broken down, where last year's levy limit was $19,255,467. The levy increased under Proposition 2.5 would be $481,387. The new growth revenue, $255,015. Fiscal year 23's levy limit, $19,991,869. Excluded debt, $836,903. There were no overrides. The maximum allowable is $20,828,772. Again, the levy to be raised is $20,792,373. And the excess levy is $36,399. In the next box, you'll see that the classes are broken down, bearing their percentage over 100%. The residential class, as you see, bears 83.5%, and the CIP class bears the 16.5%. Then we have the LA4, which is the breakdown of all the classes and the amounts in each class, as well as personal property. And then we have the tax impacts. Actual property tax
will vary from property to property. Note that fiscal year 2023 rate is an estimate only. It is based upon the Department of Revenue's review. Valuations for all property classes, including single-family homes, multifamily dwellings, and commercial properties, will generally increase for fiscal year 2023, reflecting an aggressive real estate market. A number of properties will realize corrective adjustments or value increases related to additions or renovations. FY '22, the average single-family home value was $363,437.96. The tax rate was $17.68, so the average single-family home, the average tax bill was $6,425.58. FY '23, the average single-family home is now $436,969.35. The proposed tax rate for FY '23 is $15.58, bringing the average single-family tax bill to $6,807.98. This is an increase over last year's bill of $382.40. So lastly, shifting the burden. I've broken it down between, you have your commercial, your industrial, your personal property rates. Again, you can see in the top column, we have the residential still boring of the 83%. And if you look at the last column, even at the max shift of 150%, it's still at 75%. In order keep the taxes somewhat flat to what it was in '22, you'd have to, the industrial class would have to represent, this CIP class would have to represent at least 31%, which still, again, at the whole maximum of 50%, 150%, it's still only at 16.5.
Say that last sentence again, please.
So even at the maximum of 25, the CIP rate would still be 25% bare. So it's not even up to 31 yet, we're still below that.
Thank you.
So, you're welcome. So the Board of Assessors recommends that the Select Board adopt a single tax rate to be applied to all classes of property in West Boylston.
Thank you. Question?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that the West Boylston Board,
Public hearing.
No,
oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I was
Any comments?
asking, yeah,
I
comments,
was gonna make a
questions?
motion so it could comment, but we're at a public
No,
hearing.
this is a public hearing.
I agree with the, if I may, I agree with the, what the assessors are saying. We have a relatively small tax base to shift the burden onto, a relatively small commercial tax base. To shift the burden onto the commercial taxpayers is gonna drive away businesses and result in a relatively small savings for the residential property. We've had very good success in bringing new businesses in, generating new growth revenue, which is alleviating the property taxes that we all pay in a different manner. So I personally would recommend that everybody agree to the 1.0 shift.
You have a question? Good. Okay. Any further questions? If not, I will entertain a motion to, is there any questions from the public? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close the
So-
public hearing.
Does Roger Wellington have his hand raised?
Yes. Looks like he does at least. Was
Uh,
that cursor?
Or is that the
It could
cursor?
be a cursor.
I'll tell you in a second.
No, it's a cursor.
Are there any comments on there?
Yeah. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second. We have a motion and second. Any further questions? Hearing none? All in favor to
Aye.
close the public hearing?
Okay.
Oppose? Motion carries to close the public hearing. Now, Pat.
Now, I make motion that the West Boylston Select Board votes in accordance with MGL Chapter 40, Section 56, as amended, the percentage of local tax levy which will be borne by each class of the real and personal property relative to setting the fiscal year 2023 tax rates, and set the residential factor at 1.0 with a corresponding CIP shift of 1.0, pending approval of the town's annual tax recap by the Massachusetts Department of Revenue.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
So, nope, it's 6:15.
We can do the,
Can we do the new business under,
we can do
cut?
consider the sidewalk, so we can do
Huh?
that one.
Huh?
We can do the sidewalk.
Yeah, that's the one.
Well, if we could just hold, we're waiting for one more.
One more.
Officer.
Okay.
Mark's cannabis thing.
Mark is here, cannabis,
Cannabis odor.
under new business cannabis order complaints.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through you, at the last board meeting, there was a request to discuss recent cannabis odor complaints that we have received. You will see our building department has compiled a list of all the cannabis complaints that we have received. These are all stemming from the cultivation facility on Shrewsbury Street. The building commissioner does have a device, it's called a sniffer device, that he can go out and actually measure the level of odor. You know, there's been various reports from no smell at all to significant odor. Come to find out, the company did have a part that was defective in their odor mitigation system. That part has been ordered and it will be installed this week. So I would like to see if the complaints cease once this is working fully operationally. You know, this especially has impacted folks that live in the Angelbrook community. So if folks are listening this evening, if in another week or so you're still smelling odors, please continue to reach out to the building department and we'll continue to follow up and log the complaints.
Okay, I have nothing more than that, that's terrific.
Say again?
I have no more questions, that's terrific. I'm glad that there was a problem found,
No.
a solution.
To add on to the, you know, I did drive through that area. I did smell it at some of the days.
I
Yeah,
mean, I'll
there
add
was
to
smell.
the evidence. I mean, I've driven through a few times and smelled it. It seems like when they close up their vents, it's better. But I mean, it's still, with the vents open, you can still smell something. So that's good that they found some issue that they can resolve, or try to resolve to get rid of the smell.
Is there a way that they can find this, if this issue happens again, is the only way they can find it is when people complain there's a bad smell? Or is there some type of system that they can test it weekly or monthly,
So we
that
have,
these things aren't broken?
We have a nasal manger.
we have our system, but I don't believe that they own that. I don't believe that they own one of those similar systems, the company themselves. But we can certainly explore that if they could, you know, look at doing their own internal monitoring on at least a weekly
We
basis.
shouldn't have to go out there with, our building inspector shouldn't have to go out there to see if their equipment's not working correctly. And we shouldn't rely on residents to complain to tell the company that there's something wrong with their equipment. They should fix it before it happens. Or if it needs to be changed monthly.
I'm sorry, I was reading through the chair or whatever. They were the company that bought the Nasal Ranger because they were the only grow facility that came before the planning board. We do own the thing. I don't think you even need that to go out and to detect what's going on. I mean, you could sort of calibrate it or something like that if you had that. But I mean, if they go outside and they can notice it, although they might not notice it because they're inside, you know? But I mean, like when you're just driving by, if it's really bad, you can notice it just driving in the driveway. If not, you can go around back. I mean, they can keep track of it. I would hope that the building inspector doesn't have to do it, but they don't need a device.
Okay, thank you. So next, we are nearing 6:20, public hearing, amendment of policy A3, policy on establishment and adoption of policies. Mark?
Is it this one?
Yes.
Notice is hereby given, public hearing notice. Notice is hereby given that the West Boylston Select Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, November 10th at 6:20 in the Select Board meeting room of the municipal offices located at 140 West Boylston Street, West Boylston, Worcester Street, West Boylston, Mass, to amend policy A3, adoption of policies. All interested persons, groups, and agencies are invited to attend and participate. This meeting will be held hybrid with Zoom The Zoom address is in the minutes or the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So now I will turn it to the town administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through you again. So as the board is aware, at the recent goal and objectives workshop, one of the goals set for the select board by the select board was to go through and start to update your policies. So this is the first policy that I have suggested to the chair that we bring forward to the board. I've included in your packet language from the special act, and I just want to call that out specifically. So the special act under section 3 states that the executive powers of the town shall be vested in the Board of Selectmen, who shall serve as the chief policy-making board of the town. So that is the primary function of the select board, is to be the policy-making board. And you have a policy that I believe, in my opinion, restrains you from doing that. This policy, it looks like it was last amended in 2007, and I included those minutes as well. And that was just an amendment that talked about a public hearing being posted on the website as opposed to the newspaper. So your current policy in sections 4, 5, and 6 are what I consider to somewhat restrain the authority of this board. Section 4 states that the board shall schedule a public hearing, section 3, 4, and 5. Section 3, the board shall not vote to adopt a policy at the same meeting at which it is introduced. My suggestion to the board would be that you either remove this language in its entirety, or that you had some qualifying language to allow you, if there is a policy that is non-controversial, that you could adopt it with no objection from any other board member, or perhaps if it was an emergency in nature, that you could adopt it at the same meeting it was introduced. The second item is the board shall schedule a public hearing to be held at a regularly scheduled meeting to consider adopting the draft policy, provided that notice of such a hearing is provided to the department impacted and posted under the notice section of the town's website at least 14 calendar days prior to the public hearing. So the 14-day public hearing notice comes mostly from the zoning act, where there is a requirement of a 14-day public hearing, but also the town's bylaws adopt that same 14-day language, which is more onerous than what is required for other public hearings. For example, the tax classification hearing that was held this evening, by law, does not require a 14-day public hearing notice. It only requires a 48-hour public hearing notice. So there is in the bylaw language that I've highlighted for you that calls out the types of matters that do require a public hearing, and I'm not suggesting that we disturb any of that as it's in the bylaw. But you have policies on things such as, setting the agenda of the select board, things that are very operational, that I don't believe would be subject to the 14-day requirement of the bylaw. So I'm requesting that the board consider amending this language to either not require a public hearing whatsoever, or require a public hearing with a 48-hour notice as opposed to a 14-day calendar notice, except for those items that are covered under Article 23 of the bylaw. And then lastly, if the board is inclined to make any changes whatsoever, the section 5 would need to be amended accordingly. Ultimately, this is the pleasure of the board, so I'm just bringing this forward to your attention as we are going to be going over all of the policies. It does seem to me that this burdens the board more than is required.
Questions? Go ahead.
So, looking at this, I was thinking about this earlier today. I agree we should just kill number 3. I like the idea of continuing to have a public hearing, but if we do with a 48-hour notice, the public hearing can just be posted with our regular agenda. It lets as a general matter, we will always take, the chair usually, it's the chair's call, but we will always take questions from the public if they're asked when it's not a public hearing. But at a public hearing, we're required to take questions from the public. So I think we should do the public hearing just for 48 hours. Obviously, if it falls under Article 23 of the bylaws, we have to do the full 14-day public hearing notice. And then, obviously, number 5 would have to be cleaned up to match 3 and 4.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have a question about how that applies to being able to take on a request to change and do it the same day. Would that just be as long as it's on the agenda, we can do it same day? Like you can bring the proposal in, if it's an easy, sort of mild change, unless any one person objects, we could do it same day?
Yeah, that's what,
Is that the understanding of how that would go? So as long as it's an agenda item, it's not brand new at that meeting?
But, well, I think what I heard Mr. Crowley say is that he was suggesting that the same day be eliminated in its entirety.
Be a 48-hour notice.
And just have a 48-hour notice. So you could do it
Okay.
same day with a 48-hour notice.
I liked the language that you had where one person could object and ask for it to be continued to the next meeting if they thought it was something that more people would be interested in. Is anybody else interested in
Yeah.
allowing? But that means it doesn't just have to not be voted on. Any one person could sort of have a veto and say, I'd like to continue this. Is that something the board would?
I don't have any issue with that
no,
language.
no,
I mean, just because if one person knows that there's an issue that other people would want to be involved with, it would be nice to be able to say.
yeah, that makes sense.
So when that happens, is there any more notification, or does it just go on the next agenda? Or do we do anything more in regards to public notice? If one board member says, does it turn into the 14 days then? Or does it just
With-
be put off till the next agenda?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, with other public hearing types that get continued, you don't have to renotice them. So it would just get put on to the
Next meeting.
next agenda. You don't have
You're
to,
saying it will be, so it come on the meeting because it got 48 hours, and we would just say we're gonna continue the public hearing for the next meeting?
correct. Like you do with all other public hearings.
So what's to prevent, that was Mark's point, Mark says, I don't like this, we're at a public hearing, he objects. Now we come back, he says it again,
I think you can only do it once.
that's what I'm saying, what is the proposed language gonna read?
So your current language says the board shall not vote to adopt a policy at the same meeting at which it is first introduced. So if you want to keep the objection language, right, we could have language unless there is an objection by any select board member, and then that it could be voted on at the next meeting. Because currently, you couldn't,
All right, so,
it's
I
only
think
one
the only
addition.
objection is approval same day as the.
so line 3, we leave it and say, will not be voted on at the first meeting it is first introduced if any single board member raises an objection. Is that what?
Right, and then it doesn't apply on the second one. You can't do it again. Yeah.
There needs to be some language around that so that we don't have someone constantly rejecting it at every meeting.
Well,
But it only happens once.
if we continue it,
But that's what I'm saying to her, I want, if you continue it to the next meeting and then another board member that is different than the other one rejects, no.
It's, you already used up.
this
This is
says
the
that
first
the meeting was first introduced.
First introduce.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, so because this is currently our policy, we have to do this again at our next meeting anyways. We have to bring this amendment up. So if I could get kind of what the will of the board is, and then I can revise the language and present that to you at the next meeting, because it's already on the next meeting anyways. We
So
can't
you're
vote.
looking for all of us to agree
We,
to
or
what
just
the
general
wording's gonna
agreement,
be?
so that I can get some kind of consensus of which way you wanna go, because we can't vote this tonight anyways.
Well,
under the
as far as
current policy.
intent, I would say it only applies the first time it shows up. So even if the second time another person says something, there's already been about 2 weeks or a month of,
Which if we just add that language that we just discussed, at which it is first introduced, so the board shall not vote to adopt a policy at the same meeting at which it was first introduced if any individual select board member raises an objection to the policy. So that means one person can veto a change. The first time it was
just,
introduced.
all you do is push it to the next.
First time it was
Yeah.
introduced, then we continue the public hearing, and then it becomes a
And that's
majority
not a
vote.
valid line anymore. That-
Right,
that
because it's
can't
not,
be.
it's no
Then-
longer
yeah.
first introduced.
Yeah, I like that. And then at the second meeting, if there's a lot of controversy or something like that, maybe it continues anyways, but
No, but
it's at a different.
we'll take the
reason.
vote, right? We'll take the majority.
I mean, whatever happens, happens. I mean, if you vote on it, or if there's a big fight and you want to continue.
So why can't this be voted on tonight? Why does it have to be put?
Because it's the current
Because
policy.
it's already,
Current policy.
but it's already, this is already a public hearing to amend the policy.
But this is the first meeting that it's being brought up.
But this is saying that we're not adopting a policy, we're amending a policy.
Amending.
well, that, I think that the
And
language.
that would be every time,
I think that this policy needs revision work. I think the language is vague, because this is the same argument that was for the snow and ice policy, where it was we were talking about amendment, and we didn't have a public hearing posted, and this was talking about adoption of a policy, but it's unclear, so I
It
think.
doesn't cost us anything to come back next meeting to vote on this, then
And
this will be our policy,
And
and
it's written, I mean,
and-
right now, it's kind of not written to vote on, you know?
Not only that, we'll have a clear language.
whatever.
and then moving forward, we won't have to vote on, we won't have to continue it till the next hearing.
Okay. Anything on 4 and 5?
So then 4, I would suggest, do you catch what I was saying? Change it to 48 hours notice, with the exception language of Article 23 of the general bylaws, where it requires a 14-day calendar notice.
Yeah, that's what says, the suggestion says, okay. Anything else?
Yeah, does anybody want to change what's covered? I mean, I like hours, fees.
That's
So,
all-
let's see if we go
That's
back.
all in Article 2, that's what Article 23 of the bylaws.
That's what I mean, but does everybody,
By law, we have to have it 14-day.
nuts? No, but I didn't see any problem with that.
That could come at the next town meeting.
Okay,
Okay,
nice.
That I would vote against.
okay, we'll bring it back. Huh?
Anybody from the public?
Is there any questions from the public? Hearing none, let's continue the public hearing for the next meeting. And we'll keep it open.
One more question. What are you proposing? I'm reading 5. What are you proposing? What changes? If we make the changes we just mentioned, what needs to change in 5?
Give me a moment, please.
I don't think so, we need to change anything, you know?
I
It's
think we
clear.
change the ones above.
I think that if we're gonna, it's really the publication language. But just to clean that up. The board may publish or distribute, because now we're opening it. If we're changing that it can be voted on, I mean, I guess it doesn't, it's not critical.
You're being a lawyer on us, aren't you?
It's not critical, it's not critical, Pat.
I don't have a problem with you cleaning up the language if you, but I mean, just the intent of it, I don't think, if we make the changes above, I don't think that would affect anything that we changed above. If you don't like the language, I don't have any issues with you changing the legalese of the language. I don't know how the rest of the board feels about that, but
I'll have to see what she wants to change.
well, I mean, we're continuing it anyway, and we're gonna
So
vote
I
on it
guess we'll
next
see
time.
what, yeah, and then we can, I don't think that, like you say, there doesn't seem like there's much needed to change it.
Do I hear a motion to continue?
So moved?
Second,
And
Yeah.
it'll be to the date 14th, is that the date?
December 14th is our next regularly scheduled meeting, yes.
Seconded?
Motion and second.
Second.
I already
We
have a
have-
second.
I agree with that.
Yeah, the second. We have motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor to continue the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye. We'll continue the meeting, the public hearing next select board meeting, which is on December 14th. Okay. Next is Kevin Duffy,
You wanna do the, with the two
Officers?
officers that are here, maybe, might be quick.
okay, consider approve special traffic constables as recommended by the police chief. Please, come up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anthony Papandrea, James Bartlett, and Sergeants here in the West Boylston Police Department. We had forwarded a new policy on civilian personnel assisting with traffic, and we're here to answer any questions in regards to that policy.
I think it's a great policy change.
Thank you. We've definitely felt the need recently, quite a bit of construction in town, and we've been unable to fill all the open positions. It's delayed construction and sometimes made some unsafe roadways, or less safe roadways, I should say. This will help supplement our manpower, for lack of a better word, with providing traffic control.
So I know recently there were some, sorry, through the
Go
chair.
ahead.
I know recently, I personally received calls from people at Eversource because they wanted
Yeah.
to know why they couldn't get officers. And then I had reached out and was informed that not only us,
This one
but
is here.
many other towns are kind of sitting in this this has the same problem. Will this be used in addition? So will the police officers that work get first right to get that shift? And then if no one fills it, then it will be filled by others?
That's exactly correct.
Okay.
There is a rotation specifically where police have first option, and when they're unable to fulfill it, we will go with the civilian traffic control.
Okay.
I think a lot of the businesses are finally catching up after COVID, wanting to get some work, some construction done. There were times this summer, I had like 24 unfilled ones for the week, 24 unfilled
I
detail.
think these last ones went to state troopers or something. We
State
had to pull in
troopers came in.
state troopers to do it.
Yeah, and even then, it was limited. They couldn't really even get the resources from the state as well, because, again, they're having similar issues.
That's an under F in the policy anyway. It says it goes to the West Boylston Police, second is offered to out-of-town officers,
That's accurate, yes.
and then to these special. And that's something the chief will appoint these constables?
I believe they're going to be hired by the police department and appointed by the board. It's something I would have to research. It cites the CMR that actually created civilian traffic control personnel.
I do see the flaggers now. Are they authorized, or how they are working now
Well,
in 140?
I think one of the issues is that if they're really not up to quality or up to standards, we don't have a say now because they're brought in by the construction company, whereas if we provide the civilians flaggers that, they're going to be held up to a certain standard, and if they're not able to make that standard, they won't be hired. They won't be retained. So it would hopefully improve upon the civilian flaggers that you see now.
So the one other question is, in 140, the civilian flaggers are now working during that gas line or whatever the project. Are those flaggers are appointed by or authorized by our police department?
No,
No. So those are all hired by the construction company.
that is accurate, yes, sir.
And the other one is, how the cost-wise?
It
Less, right?
it won't be any different. They're going to be making the same rate that the police make.
Okay.
And paid,
Wait, the constables will be making the same as the police officers?
It's the way it is right now, yes,
The
sir.
flaggers will be making the same money.
and paid through the police department or from the contractor or the applicant, or whoever's doing the contract?
All the details are paid by the contractor or whoever's requesting the police detail. So they would be getting paid by the construction or whatever contractor requested them.
Do we have to worry about some sort of liability or employment benefits or something like that, do you know?
In the policy, it says that they have no right to grievance. Basically, they're day laborers type thing.
And if they get hurt or something happens, are they workman's comp people?
That part I would
Yes,
say,
if they were
if they're
in-
hurt on duty, it would fall to our workers.
If they were injured, it would affect our workers' comp.
Yes.
On some level, they're going to be employees of the town.
And it says CPR certificate required, would they be
So that's part of the law. The law,
Okay.
to be a civilian flagger in Massachusetts requires you to have a certification in training and an active CPR certification, and that would be, you know, in our standard as well, so they qualify under the law.
But they, I mean, they're not gonna be a first responder or something unless. something
No,
horrible.
absolutely not.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Does the law require that they get the same rate of pay as it's currently written, or is that just a policy decision that Dennis has decided?
We looked at other communities and, with similar issues, and we used whatever was most appropriate and working in their communities, and that was this policy. We changed it a little, and the same rate of pay. You know, to be honest with you, I don't know if we'd be able to hire them otherwise. You know,
I'm just concerned that.
it's hard to find people.
They don't have they're not gonna have near the training you guys have. I
That's,
don't believe, so to give them the same pay, I mean, how do we justify that?
I think they're gonna be doing the same job, as far as traffic control, and it's just gonna be in that narrow slot. It's not gonna be, traffic enforcement, it's not gonna be first responder, or, any of the other duties and responsibilities we have. But when it comes to, traffic control, they're gonna be there, working on the site.
This is gonna be different than having retired police officers. That will still stay in place.
So one of the.
Appoint police officers.
One of the issues with retired police officers under the new police reform is they're required to hold up all their certifications and training, which the new police reform significantly altered. And it's a very big burden, and that's one of the reasons why there's no more retired officers, because it isn't necessarily worth it to them to put in the effort and their time to keep up their certification. So that they all kind of went away. So this is an avenue where we could hire retired police officers as civilian flaggers and do the same job, but they wouldn't be part-time officers or reserve officers. They would be civilian flaggers.
Do they still have to go for the training as a flagger?
No. The training I was referring to was part of the new police reform and maintaining their certification. So they
No,
won't have to maintain that.
No, I'm asking about the retired police officer. If they want to be a flagger, do they have to go for a flagger training?
I don't believe so, no.
No?
They've already had it.
They've already had it, is really the answer. CPR and all those certifications, it would have been part of,
But they are not renewing or they are not maintaining the certifications.
They would have to. The CPR, they would have to.
they
that
would
one
have,
there, they
the
would have to do.
CPR they would
They're
have to
saying all the
maintain.
other stuff that they might have to do, they won't have to do it.
But the flagger training that I was referring to is a 4-hour online class. I believe they're gonna start offering it in person. So it's a minimal amount of training. It's not a very complex task. So the police would certainly have plenty of training in that area. It would just be a matter of maintaining their CPR certification.
These flaggers obviously will have, I see some things about a uniform, they won't have a gun, they won't have anything like
The
that.
policy
Just flag.
explicitly prohibits a firearm or any weapon, you know, and says that their uniforms, it specifies what they need for a uniform, as well as it's on their responsibility to provide that, not the department's.
And now, how will this all fall with the union contract? We need to, I think we will need to have, we'll need to negotiate this into the contract, because right now, the contract talks about details, and there's parts in the contract about details. Now, this would change that.
So the union's in full agreement.
Yeah, but do we have to have a? do we have
At
to
some
open the
point,
contract?
when the contract is renegotiated in the future, they certainly can codify it and put it into the union contract, that they're part of the rotation. But until then, an agreement between the town and the union is perfectly adequate to keep this policy.
We need to make an amendment to the contract somehow?
Well,
Just do an MOU, right?
yeah, a side agreement as opposed to impact bargaining.
And just the only, I guess the only issue I would have is the same pay. Because I think when we renegotiate, now all the police departments are gonna say, look at the flaggers are making the same as us.
I think they already are. There's a prevailing wage issue in Massachusetts. I think most of the flaggers make pretty much close to the same amount.
Most of them make more. If you talk to the flaggers out here,
Yeah,
They're
construction,
making more, or the company that hires them is.
well, the company that's hiring them is paying them more. And again, the prevailing wage is the law of the land here in Massachusetts, so they couldn't make any less.
Prevailing. I don't know if the town administrator has information on that from other towns.
I do not.
Okay.
Well, I agree with Chris that I don't think it's right that the flaggers are gonna be making the same as you guys, but it doesn't affect our budget. It's not coming out of our,
Oh.
it's on the people that are that are doing the construction and that are paying the details, which is, it's not us.
And they're never gonna displace an officer. The officers have first choice.
And we'll never use these flaggers
security.
for things that you folks would do, like the Little League parades, or the center of town traffic, crossing people. This is only construction jobs
And what,
that come from outside companies, nothing else.
It's accurate.
Because then it would affect the town, if we were paying an officer to help at an event, fireworks, or anything that we might have. But these
Yep.
will be police officers.
say, suppose if the town has a project, similar kind of project, so are they going to allow the flaggers?
What do you mean the town?
What if the town had to
Town
pay a policeman?
projects.
They'd have to pay a flagger.
If there is,
So I think we're conflating a couple issues, overtime and a detail rate. A lot of times when we work town events, we're paid overtime. We're not paid a detail rate. We're being paid to work for the town. It's coming out of the chief's budget. When the gas company, Eversource, calls us, it's a detail rate. It's never overtime.
But when the water department or the light department, you
It's
could
detail
actually
rate.
have a flagger instead of,
That's accurate, yes, sir.
so indirectly, it does cost the town. It costs the residents of the town.
Yes.
but it will be less, right?
No.
No.
Yes,
it's
it
gonna
is,
be-
no, it is, town projects are less than project by the outside.
Only only on holidays, that was,
There is something in the contract.
Yeah, that
On
is something in the
holidays.
contract.
like, for instance, if there's a holiday and Eversource hires us, there's a different rate than if the town DPW hired us on a holiday, they wouldn't, it's the same flat rate. It's the same rate for everybody.
So if
Private
all
or
the
town.
flaggers get paid on holidays, will
Excuse me?
the flaggers get just the regular rate, or will they get the higher
I think they
rate?
may get the,
They're gonna get-
Holidays, weekends,
They're
nights.
gonna get the rates that are in the contract.
the only holiday, weekends and nights aren't different, it's the holidays that are the extra rate.
We're talking, I'm just confused that we're talking about contract, but these gentlemen aren't in our contract. This is not, go ahead.
Gentlemen or ladies, Chris, there could be women.
Is there a question?
Yeah, they're talking about contract, but these folks aren't gonna, right now, aren't gonna fall into the contract.
That's correct, but they're stating these folks are exempted from the contract, but the detail rates that are in the contract will be what these folks are paid. If I have that correct, gentlemen.
I think, I still remember somewhere in the contract. So if it is the town project, if we are looking for an detail, it's a lesser money, then the outside vendor comes in.
I'm happy to go grab a copy of the contract.
No, not now.
It's only on holidays. For instance, if the school department, or maybe not even the school department, if the DPW hired us on a holiday,
The water department,
water department, then the rate goes up for a holiday rate. But if they, if the DPW hires us on Monday and the Eversource hires us on Monday, it's the same rate.
same rate.
Yeah. That only affected the holiday rate. We don't do that with the town.
That's only gonna be an emergency anyway. Nobody's gonna be
Well, they-
hiring.
Yeah, an emergency for the town, but the
Right.
private ones work on holidays all the time.
Holidays that we call holidays they work. But this is only for construction sites, not for anything else.
Absolutely.
And not
Would this-
security.
So these folks that are in this, that might be retired police officers, they can come to do a basketball game or a football game, or will they,
I don't believe
Not
so.
based on what was sent to us in duties.
so you're saying
No, because
those may not go filled if you officers can't fill them?
that's correct. I think that's a security job, and that is not a traffic job, so that would not fall under these traffic personnel
Through the chair,
policy.
Hold on. Yeah, go ahead.
through the chair, what was sent to us, there are 4 items that were sent for what the duties would be of this traffic person on page.
I know there's stuff here, but the public doesn't really have.
I know, but so let's read through that, because what you're suggesting is a police officer or security, but that isn't what's outlined here. So, working at assigned locations, performing traffic control duties, including manual, directing traffic, operating traffic signals, controls and placing traffic cones, barricades, signage to safely direct and control traffic flow. Render assistance to motor vehiclists when appropriate, assist the public for information regarding directions, street locations, points of interest, etc., observe and report hazardous conditions or situations. So those are the only 4 things
Thank you.
these people would be doing.
So that list of offices that we have from other towns, are you saying we're not gonna have that anymore?
We will.
So they still will be able to,
Yeah, the full-time officers were always going to be there, but every town around us has experienced the same issue we have, so we really haven't had much luck pulling officers from other towns to work our construction details. And,
I noticed you had the Paxton officer there the other day, and then,
yeah, we've gone pretty far out, and, you know, our usual go-tos are busy. It's simple as that, and they're having their own issues.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And do we need a motion for this?
You do.
I'll make a motion to approve the special traffic constables' policies and procedures, subject to an agreement between the union and the town, saying that, you know, an MOU of some sort, saying that there is no issues with the union, with us passing this policy.
I second.
So we have a motion and second.
Can we do it today? This is when it was brought up, and it's a policy. We're
It's
still
not-
under the old
this is the
policy.
police officer.
This is a police
Not us.
officer, not ours.
Yeah, but it doesn't count.
It's not a select board policy, Mr. Chairman.
Those are the only ones that falls.
Okay. So we have a motion and second. Is there any further discussion?
So why did they bring it to us?
The select board has to approve it.
Isn't that the point of what we just talked about a minute ago?
I think, we talked about the select board policies. This is the policy of the police department.
Why'd they bring it to us?
Would you like to answer?
You're required to approve the policies of the police department as the select board members.
But that doesn't fall under the,
It's not a select board policy, it's a police department policy that the select board is required to approve.
and they don't need the 14 days or whatever.
It is not a select board policy.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Hearing no further questions, all in favor? Approving this policy? Oppose? Motion carries.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda, Kevin Duffy, DPW Director, sewer abatement request.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for having me here this evening. Thank you, everyone. In front of you are 2 applications for abatement of sewer usage charges. The first one is from a resident at 8 Townsend Drive. The resident has noted that their sewer billing was approximately $400 than similar quarters in previous years. After reviewing all the pertinent information, the sewer usage was in fact significantly higher compared to those previous quarters that they are noting. I didn't find anything where I would recommend an abatement for the apparent $400 request
or year for 18?
Yeah.
Yeah, please come forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
Sure, it's Rich Wall, 18 Townsend Drive, West Boylston. Now, do I understand he's not, you're denying the abatement?
Yes.
And for what reason?
Kevin, would you like to say?
I am recommending, not to approve the request. It actually would be done by the sewer commissioners, which are sitting in front of you, there. But no, the reason that the bill is larger is because the usage has been larger than previous quarters. The billing rate is correct based on the usage. The usage is just that much higher than those previous quarters that are noted.
But can I speak freely?
Sure, go ahead.
But the usage was abnormal, and that was due to the amount of water that was used during that time period. And the reason for the increased use of water was I programmed a valve out in the flower garden, and I didn't program it correctly, and we were away for 3 or 4 days. And so I agree that I used water, that was my mistake, but that water did not go down the sewage. I understand how the billing kind of works, that as your water bill goes up, the assumption is it goes down. Well, in this case, it didn't. So, and as you pointed out, it is abnormally high for that time period. And as I said, it coincides with the increased water bill, which I feel I owe and I did pay. So,
I think the policy does not give, I know there is, some people might have meters exterior to their house for irrigation purposes. And the policy specifically notes that, unless you have that second meter, there are no abatements for use outdoors.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
Kevin, if this had been a broken pipe that had been running for 4 days and caused this, would that have changed your recommendation to say this was a broken pipe, it didn't go down the sewer? I know it wasn't, I'm just hypothetically, under the...
I guess no information was provided with this submission, other than the bill was $400 higher. But no, I think the recommendation is if it's for irrigation, you should have a second sewer, and that's why it's specifically stated in the policy. Because there is such a large likeliness of having an exterior.
I agree, I understand, if somebody planted a new lawn and watered their lawn all summer long, I wouldn't be asking the question. This, just want to make sure I'm understanding you.
Sure.
You tried to set this to go off for just, a half hour, an hour, or whatever. I'm assuming it ran for 4 days?
Oh, yeah.
The whole time you were away. And so, while it's not a broken pipe,
It's essentially a broken pipe.
he wasn't using the water for irrigation. He was it was a malfunction of an irrigation system. If this was, we've abated them before, where a pipe broke outdoors and it didn't go down the sewer, and we've granted the abatement, correct?
Go ahead.
So
I'm sorry, did you ask a question? I was waiting for an answer.
Yeah, so, I mean, is that, in the if this, assuming this had been a broken pipe instead of irrigation, that
We do allow
caused this to happen, would that have changed your recommendation?
I think if there was something stating that, usually that would be accompanied with a recommendation from the water district, saying that they went to the site, or maybe something from a plumber who had come out and identified the leak and made a estimate for the lost water. That is typically what would be submitted with this. I did reach out to the water district. They had no notes. They had no inquiries about any anything that they could share? No abnormalities other than, yes, the water usage looks higher?
Substantially
So-
higher.
So the one
In those
question,
instances, yes. This doesn't appear to be water usage from 3 or 4 days, just looking at the quantity.
Oh, no, I'm not saying the bill was 500 and,
77.
yeah, $577, and I'm saying, on my normal usage, I'm saying 170 of it I feel obligated to pay, based on, previous usage. So I'm not trying to say I shouldn't pay any of that bill.
so the 1 month is 579. So during that month was the one you program it wrongly, or that's the month maybe. Okay, go ahead.
My only concern, and being this is, a different situation, is it is substantially higher based on what I'm seeing, and that means, we had a few years ago, someone on Prospect Street, they had an irrigation system, not on a separate meter. It broke outside, flooded the backyard, their water bill was through the roof. This means anytime someone receives and could say, hey, my kid left a spigot on the side of the house for 2 days, come to the water, we'll agree to pay this portion. It kind of sets a precedent. So I just want to make sure, because there's no way to monitor what actually happened versus what didn't. That's my only concern, is that it opens a can of worms for everybody to come forward and say, I don't believe I should pay X number. That might be an issue.
I mean, we have abated
done
for a broken pipe.
Yeah.
And we do essentially abate when you have the second meter, so you know how much is outside and how much is inside. But it's done by the water department, so they only bill the sewer rated water. And then there is also, I think in the policy, unless it's been written out, if you're filling a pool, you can ask for a reading, fill the pool, and then a reading, and you can get an abatement that way too. So I mean, it's not like we don't do this. We just don't do this because of undocumented reason. I mean, it's either filling a pool,
Right.
Irrigating on a separate system. So I think, I don't know how much of a precedent we're setting, except that we could say, if we know it's outside and we know it wasn't going down the sewer, it's not really costing, it's
But
not really a cost.
But I don't think Kevin
We just don't know.
stated that this is more than just the 3 or 4 days that this gentleman is saying that this was programmed
Agree,
based on the usage.
At the same time,
Now we can
it's a
look into
1 month
that,
bill.
Yeah.
But
1 month bill is in a,
3 months.
Right,
It's
3
still
months.
3 months.
Yeah,
Yeah, so over a 3 month.
this is over a 3-month period of time.
That's the window. Now, was it all in 1 week? I don't know if you can tell usage
it's
by,
like 20,000 gallons, that's not.
yeah, I know,
Well, it's more like 35,000 gallons if you
Yeah,
look at,
this is-
Half of that is what we're saying?
if you look at the usage for the July through September months in the previous 2 years, this is about 37,000 gallons more than the 2 previous years. So I mean, obviously your water usage generally goes up in the summertime, and so,
but do you think this much?
I just want to correct the language in the policy is failure to secure a second water meter from the water district shall not be reason for granting an abatement of a sewer use bill. Just to make it clear that is kind of the necessary when it's an irrigation-based water abatement or sewer abatement.
I don't agree that this would be, fall under a irrigation water abatement request, because this was not somebody that set out to irrigate their lawn and grow a brand-new lawn. This was a malfunction, self-imposed
self-inflicted.
malfunction, but this was a malfunction of a watering system. So, for
I mean,
me,
you can go and look at my lawn. It does not look like,
No,
There is no
I would say,
irrigation for the
he
lawn.
may be saying 3-4 days, it could be more than that.
But an
than
average
that, it's
pool,
going-
an average pool takes about 15,000 gallons. If he overused 35,000 gallons, is your yard flood?
35,000,
If it's
yeah.
35,000 gallons more, you're telling me if that happened, your yard should be flooded. It should actually be running off into the road. Like I want to establish this is 2 times the size of the average American pool in water. Am I losing my, like, we should see this.
It may have been.
Or if it's in your house, you should have,
No, I
Have
know
water in
my
it.
house isn't flooded, and I know the backyard, or the side yard rather, isn't flooded.
In the, do you know what month was this?
This is from June to September.
No, but when you went away and the thing was on,
Was July.
so
It's
10,000 gallons of water is a lot of water. When I was a kid, our swimming pool collapsed in the middle of the summer in July, and there was no flood. The water just went into the ground because it was as dry can be.
are you taking 10,000 and spreading it off over if
This
it's
is
increase of?
a pool that collapsed.
No, but it wasn't 10,000 over, it's
Right,
35,000
so,
gallons over.
and the pool, my swimming pool, which is 12,500 gallons, takes 2 days to fill.
Okay,
So if you went away for 3 or 4 days, that, 4 days would be 25 to 30,000 gallons. I mean, that is feasible.
It is,
Alright.
I would think the same, So I would, go ahead.
Did you go to the water district also and ask for any type of
No,
abatement?
no, because, again, it's self-inflicted. So I didn't feel like I could go to the water department and say, my usage is up. I don't expect to pay it. So,
I have one more question.
Sure, go ahead.
So, the request before us, I wanna make sure I understand the request. Is it for $682.69?
no,
So what is before us?
$400.
400.
Or- Yeah,
Okay, and that's partial of the current, so if I'm looking at this, there's a current charge, a past due charge, and an interest charge. You're taking out the 400, we're taking out the past due, because we wouldn't be looking at that amount. And I'm going with, it's,
so that.
This one here.
It's $577, is what the bill is for that period.
okay,
So if I have to, so in June 2021, the bill was 171.13. The same period, it was 579.13. So that's where he is coming up with the
that's not the
$400.
$400 though.
$400, yeah.
Yeah, that's not the math part, so I'm gonna do it right now. So, 773, and what was the number you said it was for? So,
No, the
579,
400 is the difference.
579, 13 cents. In
59 is the
2020,
bill.
2022,
171 is the bill that's normal.
no,
So it's
It was about 400 bucks.
approximately $400.
Yeah, 390, whatever it is.
402, 400,
okay,
I think, I feel like it is a reasonable request. So,
I feel like it's,
it is possible.
under our policy, it's allowable. I
Yeah.
understand where Kevin's coming from, saying irrigation, you need a second meter, but I don't consider this an irrigation issue.
Well, and he's doing the right thing, and that's why it's before us, and, I mean, that's what,
I do believe him. Yeah, that's what.
are you planning on getting an irrigation meter in the future?
No, I'm getting rid of the valve.
I'm just, I have to ask for peace of mind, I don't know if you should, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the $400 request.
I'll second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Uh,
Somebody was talking about the bill here, I mean, it usually is you're supposed to pay out the whole bill, and then, just like the other guys did.
His bill's
I was
paid.
just gonna ask that, now, would that abatement come in the form of a
Oh,
check?
actually, I don't know how they bill.
I don't know how that works.
You could talk to the town
Kevin?
admin office.
Do you know that answer, Kevin?
Well, was the question, sorry?
How does he get the 400? Just come off his future bill?
Or do I get a check or whatever?
I think it can be done either way. You can reach out to the treasurer collector's office and just ask if maybe if there's a preference on how you'd like to be reimbursed.
Sure.
Should they can work with you.
Okay, I'll do that then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next one is sewer abatement request for 99 Hartwell Street. Kevin?
Yes. So we received another request for a sewer abatement. This one is from a commercial property on Hartwell Street. The applicant noted that their tenant reported to them that they had a leaking toilet that they had fixed back in August. A general water loss from a leaking toilet still is entering the town sewer system. With that, I would recommend, I do not recommend the abatement for this application.
Basically, water was running through the toilet.
Yeah, it's probably just an O-ring that was leaky and water just kept going. And unfortunately, it might not have been addressed in a timely manner.
Okay. Yeah.
This one's easy.
Is there any questions from the board? Okay. Can I request a motion for this? Is there a motion?
I think if we just don't do anything,
Do we have to deny or approve?
Do we have to deny or
Yes, Mr. Chairman, but before you do, I thought that there was somebody that was coming on Zoom for this. Is there nobody in the audience?
no.
Okay.
So I think if we just do nothing, it's over. We don't even have to vote.
You
They
could,
ask for an amendment. If we do nothing, they don't get the abatement. I would
but
think.
finally, you could vote that you support Mr. Duffy's conclusions.
I think in the past, when, I don't think we voted on them.
Okay.
We just-
Okay,
Okay.
okay. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Okay, next one is town administrator's report.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, a brief report tonight. So, collective bargaining agreement update for the Public Works and Teamsters Union Local 107. So, the current collective bargaining agreement covering the period of July 1st, 2020 to July 30th, 2023 has not been executed. As the board may recall, there was a notion to combine the two separate bargaining agreements of the Department of Public Works and the Cemetery Division into a single bargaining unit, and there was a memorandum of agreement executed to the same effect. The task before us is to take the language of the memorandum of agreement and incorporate it into a collective bargaining agreement. So there's been several meetings with the Teamsters on this. These are not negotiations because everything is agreed to. It's just pulling the agreed upon language into a CBA. I think we are very close, and I expect that the final CBA, which will be expiring in short order, will be before the board very soon, just to begin the next round of bargaining. Are there any questions on that one? Okay. The next item is the Affordable Housing Trust will be meeting on December 8th, 2022 at 6 p.m. at the Senior Center. An agenda has been posted, but it is not finalized. So, as folks in the community are likely aware, there are several developers that are interested in proposing local initiative program projects, or LIP projects, also referred to commonly as friendly 40Bs. I have asked all developers prior to coming before the select board to first meet with the Affordable Housing Trust, and I've asked the Affordable Housing Trust to evaluate any conceptual proposals against the housing production plan in order to make a recommendation before this board if these developers ever do come before this board to request a LIP. I know that there's quite a few members of the public that are interested in following the 40B proposals as they wind through the process, and I would encourage all those folks to again attend the December 8th meeting at 6 p.m. at the Senior Center. That meeting will be recorded, But due to the location at the senior center, it will not be hybrid and it will not be live. So folks will need to be in person if they want to be heard on that matter. And I understand from the chair that she will be recognizing members of the public at that meeting. Maya Fall Review. So last week we held a meeting with Maya, the town's insurer, for the annual fall review. Our insurance advisor, Ken Lombardi of NFP, was present. The town's loss ratio is very favorable. In this current fiscal year, it's 82.83%. But over the last 24 months, which is what our new rate will be calculated on, it was even lower than that at 79.22%. The insurer likes to see loss ratios under 88%. However, we've been informed that despite us having great numbers, our insurance is likely to increase as the market is increasing. The rates for the overall trust will be announced at the annual meeting that's part of the overall MMA meeting in January. And then that's going to be January 21st. And then we'll get our specific numbers sometime mid-February. I'm hoping that they are much lower than that of the overall trust, where our loss ratio has been favorable. Update on the cemetery master plan. Nancy Lucier was successful in obtaining a $130,000 earmark for the construction and planning of a new cemetery site in West Boylston. That's on Pollock's Tibnan Drive. And the cemetery trustees, together with Kevin Duffy and myself, are going to be working on getting together an RFP or RFQ to obtain a contractor to prepare that master plan. Of the $130,000, $5,000 has been spent on test holes. The soil is favorable, so I will keep folks apprised as that moves forward. I understand there's about 3 years left at Mount Vernon, so it's critical path that we get a new cemetery going. The Town Administrator Commitment to Excellence Award. So I posted today a call for nominations for the 16th Annual Town Administrator's Commitment to Excellence Award. This award annually recognizes an employee who has excelled at their position, going above and beyond. And nominations will be due December 31st is what's in your packet, but I put out to the public December 30th because it's a Friday. So if any folks in the public or board members or staff members that are watching want to nominate somebody, please get those applications in. And lastly, for those that haven't been following the news, I just want to join in congratulating the West Boylston Lions football team who has advanced to the championship round of play at, and they will be playing this Friday at Gillette Stadium. Tremendous honor at 3 p.m. for the ultimate title of D7 championship winners. This is something that the entire community should get behind and be proud of our team and all the parents and the sacrifices that they've made. For those that cannot attend, there are plenty of streaming options available.
Thank you. Any questions? The next is future agenda items, select board report. Before going to this, we do need to have 2 meetings in December. Our regular meeting is going to be 14th of December. I think, the town council is, and also we do need to have meetings to talk about that 40Bs. Either we could have, the town council is available on 14th or 13th.
So town council is available on both December 13th and December 14th. So the question really is, do you want meeting on 2 back-to-back nights, or do you want a really long meeting? And my suggestion would be, again, that this meeting be held at the senior center. In terms of capacity, this room only holds 49 persons. That includes everybody. So I think that we are going to have a lot of folks from the public who are interested in attending. So there's that to consider as well.
I think we should have the 13th for the,
Regular meeting,
no, the 13th for the 40B,
40B.
and then the 14th, which is our regular Wednesday
I
night.
agree.
So
So what time are we gonna schedule the 6 PM? Are we gonna,
Are folks available at 6? Do you want to push it back to 6:30 so that folks can get home from work who might be interested in attending?
6:30 is fine with me.
Either one.
Good, I'm good for 6:30 then.
6:30?
Do we have to wear a tie?
December 13th will be the 40B.
Correct.
at what time? 6:30?
6:30.
6:30. And the regular meeting 14th will be 6 o'clock.
Correct.
And that will be 6 o'clock regular.
Can you make it at 6?
Yes,
Yes.
he can make it.
But Mark will be late.
Mark can make it.
I'll be late, but yeah,
Okay.
but we should go on with the meeting.
So that 2 meetings are set now? Okay. The future agenda items. Pat is scribbling. Lot of-
I just have one announcement from the Celebrations Committee. I made this announcement last meeting as well. This Sunday at 4:30 is the Christmas tree lighting. Fire department is gonna bring Santa on a fire truck. We're gonna have the West Boylston a cappella choir singing carols for us. Santa will be reading "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" and handing out candy canes. And there will also be hot chocolate and snacks that are provided. Everything's being funded by the Celebrations Committee, so there's no cost to attend. Last year, there's a very good turnout. Highly recommend, if you have children or you're a kid at heart, you go to this 4:30 on Sunday. The weather is looking great, unlike tonight, so let's hope that doesn't change.
Thank you. Is there anything else? Okay. Hearing none. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
We have a motion and second. It's not debatable. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion, meeting adjourned.
Picture time.
Gonna go take a picture up front.
Photo time.
Right.
Photo time.
Mark, I thought you were getting dressed up for